What's going on, YouTube and horror movie buffs? Welcome to I Shot Him Six Times YouTube horror movie channel. As you know, I am your host, Marcus. Be sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, as well as hit that notification icon so you get all the latest content updates, especially if you are a fan of horror movie content. In this video, I'm going to discuss Neil Prescott, the deceased father of Cindy Prescott in the Scream franchise, potentially having three, not two, but three grandkids, and why this is significant moving forward in the Scream franchise for Part 6 and Part 7. But before I do that, let's hit that intro. I shot him 6 times! Alright guys, so as I said at the top of the video, I'm going to discuss Neil Prescott, Cindy Prescott's deceased father in the Scream franchise, potentially having three, not two, but three grandkids, and why this is significant moving forward in the Scream franchise for further sequels. Now, how I got to this point was the other day my buddy Ryan had stopped over and we was hanging out, talking and throwing around theories, for potential, storylines for the next Scream movies. And I had expressed to him that I feel like Sam is actually involved. I feel like she is a ghost face killer in plain sight that hasn't been revealed yet, and that later on down the road this is going to be revealed as such. And I also said that I believe that Cindy Prescott, yes, Cindy Prescott is really Sam Carpenter's real mother. I actually made a YouTube video about that a couple days ago, and I have it in the description if you want to in the description box if you want to click that link and take a look at it. Now, the reason, I'll give you a little piece of the reason I said in that video why I believe as such is the dialogue between Sam and Cindy, and the fact that Dewey didn't know that Sam was Billy's daughter, but Cindy did, and there was no mention to Cindy about Sam or the situation and anything. There was nothing we saw that Dewey, tipped her off that this is Billy's daughter. Nothing. Even Gail, she didn't even know, when she met Sam. So, once again, if you want to watch that video, hit that link in the description box. So, I was fishing out that theory to him, and he's like, well, how would that work being that Melissa Barrera and obviously Sam Carpenter, the character portrayed in the movie, is basically, Latina, has an ethnic background. How would you get that to pass off, being that Billy is obviously Caucasian and Cindy is obviously Caucasian? So I even went and did a background on the actors who played Cindy's parents in the Scream franchise, and I found out Maureen Prescott is actually really Hawaiian. Now, can you really incorporate that? I don't know. Maybe that I'm not saying that's the direction they go. Maybe they interpret something like that. I don't know. You know what I mean? But this is the movies, guys. You know how, they'll finagle a way to either make it make sense or make it not make so much sense, and leave it up to you whether you decide you like the outcome or not. So, with that being said, I went and did some digging, as I said, and I couldn't, like I said, Neil Prescott is obviously American born, he's Caucasian or whatever, no ethnic background on him. But I went on ScreamFandom.com, which is like the Wikipedia for the Scream franchise, and I found something very, very interesting about Neil Prescott and his background and his bio. And what I found to be interesting, as you can see on the screen, to the left and to the right, we'll start with the right. Below, on one instance, it says 2 unnamed grandchildren and another possible unnamed grandchild. Then if you look on the left, it says 3 unnamed grandchildren. This is very significant for the simple fact is, as we know, and as you can even see above where it says daughter and children, Cindy Prescott is the only listed known child that her father has. She was the only child. that Neil Prescott had. So where do you, if she has 2 children to Mark Kincaid, where does the 3rd child come from? It makes perfect sense. Like I said in that video about Cindy potentially being Sam's mom, there was a theory going around before this 5th movie came out that Sam was the love child of Cindy Prescott and Billy Loomis, and that some people theorized out there that Cindy gave her up for adoption, obviously because, you know, it was Billy's child, didn't want nothing to do with it, you know, moved on with her life, etc., etc. And I'm going to tell you why that makes perfect sense. Think about it, you guys. If you're fans of the Scream franchise, think about it. This is history eerily repeating itself. Cindy Prescott has now become the new Maureen Prescott. For the simple fact is, one, you don't bring Cindy Prescott back in the next movie if her story's finished. If her story's finished in this franchise and you're going to focus solely on Sam being the new final girl or whatever, you don't bring Cindy back at all. And that's just a fact. Number 2, Cindy has become Maureen for the simple fact is, we all know Maureen Prescott, she was a Hollywood actress, obviously got raped by, you know, a bunch of the actors, etc. And she had a child with, you know, whoever, and that's where Roman Bridger, who turned out to be Cindy's brother and killer in the 3rd movie, came along. And, you know, he, in that storyline, he, you know, went to see Maureen. She rejected him, you know, said that, you know, Rena was dead and that Cindy was the only child that she claimed, etc., etc. And if you listen to the dialogue, when Sam asked Cindy, "Why do you want to help me?" she said, "Because this killer basically is not going to stop, and I have two kids at home, and I'm not going to sleep until we put this killer in the ground," basically. Why that line is significant is because if Sam is Cindy's daughter, well, now to her face, you basically disacknowledged her. You didn't even acknowledge her existence. You didn't even acknowledge the fact that you have a 3rd child, which would give Sam all the motive why all this is happening. Why all this is happening back in Woodsboro, the murders, everything. It all points back to Sam and Cindy being possibly mother and daughter. It does. The evidence is right before your eyes. Neil Prescott, 3 possible unnamed grandchildren. Well, 3 unnamed grandchildren, it says in the one. The other, it says 2 unnamed grandchildren and then possible another unnamed grandchild. It makes perfect sense. Cindy Prescott now has become what her mother, Maureen, was. Which is why Roman Bridger came after her. Because she shunned him. Left him out in the cold. Didn't acknowledge him. Sam has become the new Roman Bridger, just in plain sight. And I thoroughly believe that. I mean, I don't see how you cannot with the evidence that I have presented. And if you listen to the dialogue between Cindy and Sam in that movie, and like I said, if you point at the fact that how does Cindy know that Sam is Billy's daughter? I'm telling you guys, I think that the old theories before this movie came out about Cindy and Billy having, you know, Cindy getting pregnant that night, obviously that fateful night when the original murders happened in '96 in Stu's house, that after she had sex with Billy, she got pregnant, put the kid up for adoption, and just basically moved on with her life. I think that theory can actually be a reality now, especially with the evidence that I provided. You don't sit there and say a man has 3 grandchildren when he has 1 child who claims she only has 2. Where does the 3rd other possible grandchild come from? I tell you, from Cindy Prescott and Billy Loomis. Sam is Cindy Prescott's daughter. This explains it all. You don't put this in his character bio if there's no weight to it. You just don't. I don't see how you do that. I mean, maybe it's a mistake or maybe it's somebody's theory. I don't know. But I'd like to think this is a pretty viable source where this is coming from. ScreamFandom.com. So, with that being said, guys, let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Do you guys think that I provided enough evidence to prove that Sam Carpenter is Cindy Prescott's real daughter and that Cindy is Sam's real mother, and that possibly later on in the Scream and in these next sequels we're going to get furthermore storyline development on this subject and reveal that Cindy is Sam's mother, possibly setting up for Sam to be one of the Ghostface killers and revealing that she's been involved in the attacks all along. Hit the comment section. I want to hear from you guys. Alright guys, I'm going to get out of here for the day. Once again, this is I Shot Him 6 Times YouTube horror movie channel. I am your host, Marcus. Once again, be sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support is greatly, greatly appreciated, as well as hit that notification icon to get all the latest content updates to the channel, as well as be sure to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and obviously here on YouTube. Your support is greatly appreciated, guys.